Welcome back to AFTV, time for another In Focus, and this time we're having a look at Amadou Onana. Now let me just say something from the very start of this video. If you watched the Isak In Focus, that was me trying to convince you all that it was worth going maybe above and beyond to spend the money on him. If you watched the Benjamin Sesko video, you know that's me trying to understand why Arsenal had gone as far in negotiations as they did for a player that we didn't really know was going to improve the first 11. In this video and in this series as a whole throughout the summer, we're not always going to be taking the most positive spin on players. Now, this is not me saying that this video is 10 minutes of saying that Onana is not the guy for us. But I want to look at the debate, in particular when it comes to passing stats and the passing potential of a player like Amadou Onana, because recent reports in The Athletic are saying that Arsenal might move their attention towards midfield and prioritise midfield over getting a forward. At the moment, they're looking like getting a 6 over an 8 because the market's better. Now, there have also been reports saying that Arsenal aren't looking at Onana, while others are saying Arsenal certainly might, and that Arsenal have contacted Everton over his availability. So there's a lot going on. This isn't a clear target. This isn't a player that we're clearly in for, though we definitely have been. I can say we definitely have been over the last 2 years since since July 2022 when he moved to Everton. And he is a player that divides opinions. Some people are like, yes, bring him in. Some people are saying no. Now, the criticism and the reasons most people are saying don't bring him in is because they feel there's something lacking technically. And that's what we're going to explore a little bit in this video. Let's talk first about his player profile so we will get a feel for the player. 22 years old. He's a defensive midfielder / central midfielder. He very much is both. He's 6'4". He's right-footed. And of course, he's at the Euros right now with Belgium. Now, let's go straight into some of the passing data, because if you're going to be a number 6 for Arsenal, or quite frankly, play in any area of the pitch for Arsenal, you've got to have good technical quality and security in possession. Some people feel he lacks that. The data supports it a little bit. Let me show you why. If you've got his FBref numbers here, got a screenshot from FBref, and as you can see, the percentile rankings, aka where he ranks for these passing stats compared to other midfielders in the Premier League, are quite low. As you can see, the lack of green tells you that he doesn't compare that well compared to other Premier League midfielders when it comes to passing numbers, completed, attempted, completion, whether it be short, medium or long, where actually long is the only area where he seems to really excel. His pass completion for long passes is really good. Key passes is down, assists is down, passing penalty area is down, all that. So that doesn't look particularly great, but we move on to some of his defensive numbers, and they're certainly more up there. Tackles 1, tackles in defensive third, middle third are very, very good. Tackles and interceptions together, very few errors made, and the percentage of dribblers tackled looks pretty good as well. You would expect that because he plays in an Everton side that are very sturdy, resilient, good defensively, always going to be under Sean Dyche, but also he's a player that has excelled for his defensive attributes as well. Let me just show you some more of his miscellaneous stats so you can see that he's very good for drawing fouls. That's because he's a good ball carrier. He's good at running into spaces, being fouled and retaining possession. He's good at tackles won, ball recoveries, aerials won, aerials lost, and the percentage of aerials won as well. So I think the numbers and the data supports what a lot of people generally just throw out there about Amadou Onana. Not great on the ball, not secure enough in possession, but very good at winning back possession, very good defensively, and will fit what a lot of Arsenal have built in terms of base principles and like a base sturdiness and essentially getting your defensive duties right before you do everything right on the ball. That feels like the direction Arteta's gone. I mean, basically he's added more to the defence and built from defence forward with this team, and Onana would probably fit in that sense. But I want to talk about the passing stuff in more detail because I wish I could just show you comps of the player. I wish I could just show you some of the footage I see. I encourage you all to go to YouTube and watch comps of Amadou Onana. This guy can pass a ball. This guy can 100% do what you probably would want a 22-year-old to be able to do with the ball at his feet in terms of passing range, in terms of through the lines, in terms of a range of passing, and in terms of ball carrying as well, dribbling, being good in tight spaces, beating the press. If he is put under pressure, he's got that ability with his body and with technical ability to turn, open up the pitch and turn what is kind of pretty settled possession in around your goal into actually an opportunity where you're running at a back four or a midfield that's opened up because of his press resistance and his quality on the ball. Amadou Onana has all that, and that is only really shown in comps and in watching the player more than it is in his numbers. And what I do want to show you to try and prove why some of the numbers aren't always the most believable and always, they're believable, they're fact, right? But they're not always what you should pin your hopes on. Do you remember I talked about Kai Havertz's numbers defensively, and I used it to support that you shouldn't always look at FBref numbers from Sesko's perspective. If you watch that breakdown and that in focus, you'll know what I was talking about. Well, I want to show you some more stuff that supports why we shouldn't sort of go too far when it comes to the numbers on FBref. As you can see, the passing stats for Premier League clubs has Everton ranking 18th for purely attempted passes. They were the third lowest for attempting passes of any club in the Premier League. Down there were Luton and Sheffield United, two of them that got relegated. Everton are not a team that attempt passes as a part of their style of play. And that's not to say they're not entertaining. I think Everton were very entertaining last season. They were quite long, they were quite direct. They'd win flick-ons, they'd get crossed into the box, their combination football was quite good at times, and they were very efficient going forward, and they created a lot of chances. But through pure possession-based football and passing the ball, keeping it on the ground, Everton are not a team that did that. And so if Onana was to have those strengths in possession, you weren't really going to see them because, quite frankly, he had a different job to do in an Everton side, and he wasn't always a 6 either. More on that later. If I show you more of Everton's passing rankings in the 23-24 Premier League season, you can see they're ranked 18th for attempted passes, 18th for passes completed, 17th for short passes completed, 16th for passes into the final third, and 18th for progressive passes as well. It wasn't a team or a system that was going to get the best out of his technical ability on the ball in terms of setting a tempo and keeping the ball moving on the floor in a possession-based system. What you were going to see was what you did see a lot, which was the defensive numbers, the lung-busting runs up and down the pitch, the driving with possession, because his carries were good for those kind of numbers too. But in terms of possession numbers, you weren't going to see that because Everton as a team weren't built around that. Now, you go back to when he was at Lille as well, 2 years before he was at, no, 2 years before now, so when Everton signed him. Again, Lille ranked, 10th, 11th for completed passes in the league, so he's not really got a body of work in a team that really focused on possession to show how good he can be. In fact, some of the comps I watched typically showed what he was doing in a Belgium shirt when he had De Bruyne, when he had Doku, when he had Lukaku, when he had players he could feed in behind, but he had a De Bruyne in there too, a Tielemans. That's where you saw a little bit more of what Onana can do on the ball, because they're a team that are going to be a little bit more possession-based. Trossard as well, and Onana, again, showed some of his range in that sense. Now, I said that while the style at Everton is one thing that sort of, maybe held us back from seeing how good he can be on the ball, it's his position and his role as well. Because when you look here, he literally has played 17 games as a central midfielder for Everton this season and 17 games as a defensive midfielder. So he is not an established 6 or an 8. He quite frankly can do both. Now, a lot of that might be because they can play almost 4-4-1-1, where they've got Onana with an Idrissa Gueye, and then they've got Doucouré who can play off Calvert-Lewin or Beto, or they had a few different systems, but Onana, when he's played, has typically played in a midfield too, both expected to win possession, both expected to do enough with the ball at their feet as well, but not be necessarily a tempo dictator who always gets the ball off the back four. Everton fans, let me know if that's true. That's my interpretation, but he has played a little bit of both, and the heat maps support that as well. As you can see here, Onana and Idrissa Gueye's heat maps next to each other. It feels like Onana covers a little bit more ground, weirdly a little bit more centrally, or at least just in front of the centre circle, than Idrissa Gueye, but you can also see attacking that left channel a little bit more, Onana with a little bit more licence to get forward as well. So I don't think we've really seen him as the 6, even if the style hasn't suited. He's not really played too much as a 6 in terms of us knowing whether he's kind of right in terms of consistency, let's put it that way. I'm waffling. You get what I'm trying to say. Now, for some of you might have doubts. You might say, okay, that's all great, fine. But the numbers still aren't great, and I've seen what he's done at Everton, so it's a big risk, 50 million. Sure, but if the technical quality is there, and Arteta feels the player's intelligent enough, like he did with Thomas Partey, then there's a chance that Onana, especially at 22 years old, grows to become the number 6 that Arteta wants long term, especially if Rice is to play as the 8. More on Rice as the 8 later. But let me show you this when it comes to Thomas Partey, because I think we all need to remember that Thomas Partey, when he first arrived, struggled in the 6 as well. And everyone was saying he's not a defensive midfielder, stop playing there, he's a box-to-box. Arteta's not getting the best out of a player who was brilliant as an all-action midfielder for Atletico Madrid. But with some coaching, with some time, he got better and better. Now, as you can see, his first season, Thomas Partey, at Arsenal, you can see that with 67 attempted passes, 86% pass completion, and 55 passes received. Yeah, the numbers weren't as good as they ended up being. In fact, they even got worse the season after, where he attempted less passes, he completed less passes, and he received less as well. But from that point on, it was only years of improvement, because in the 22-23 season, by far his best campaign for Arsenal, he attempted more passes, 71.95 per game. He completed 87.2% of them, his best pass completion rate at the time, and he received 59.95, again the best of the time. But despite barely playing this last campaign and playing quite a few games at right back, but ultimately playing in the run in the last 6-7 games of the season for Arsenal, he actually clocked better numbers with 72.64 passes attempted per game, 89.6% pass completion, and 60.30 or 60.30 passes received per game, or per 90 should I say, actually, for Arsenal last campaign just gone. So his numbers have only got better and better and better, because with more coaching under Mikel Arteta, he has only understood the 6 role more, and actually with Declan Rice there, maybe he's been even better and a little bit more secure because he's had someone else who can be there and build up. But generally, Partey has got better with more coaching, and Amadou Onana could have the exact same thing, where he's seen as an all-action midfielder. He's got these other qualities that Arteta goes, that's great, if you need to use them, fine, but I want you for these qualities. There's a technical security and cuteness, what's the word? There's a technical, just like class, guile in his passing that maybe hasn't been unlocked, that was unlocked with Partey, and Mikel Arteta might do the same with him. Now, what does it mean for Declan Rice's future? Well, probably that if we sign a 6 and Onana's the guy, that Declan Rice is going to be a number 8. How do I feel about it? If I'm honest, I don't actually love it, and this is why. I'm just going to take you to the tactical pad and show you a system that Arteta may deploy next season. Now, if I just show you some arrows, we've talked about this on the channel. Let's show it in white. Let's show it in blue. We saw a lot of passes from Timber and Zinchenko in that final day of the season against, albeit Saka didn't play, but in that final day of the season against Everton, where Onana did very well. And we played with a double invert to end the season. And what I found really interesting about this was Zinchenko and Timber tucked in, and it was actually Rice here. And this 3 were the playmaking 3 for a front 5 to attack. And you had your 5 lanes, and you had your line of 5, and you had the 3 who were just trying to thread the lines, or thread the ball through the lines. Now, Arsenal haven't always built up in this way. We know that they've built up in a 3-2-5 mainly, and that's been the go-to shape, where they've got Zinchenko in these areas to create that box midfield that we've talked about many, many times before. Now, my issue with this is, if we just open up the project again, where is it? Onana Arsenal, there we go. I don't like Declan Rice in this position. And I know you're all going to say, James, you're a hypocrite. You have talked about Declan Rice more than anyone. I think I had when I wanted to get Partey in the team, when I looked at the midfield options we had, and I felt he did have that powerful running option. But I do think long term, I want to see Rice in this position, and I want to see someone a little bit more similar to an Odegaard. So let's go to the players. Maybe we could add, Smith Rowe is an option. I think we need to sign someone personally, but Vieira, personally I'd get a new signing. I want to see players of that ilk in that area if we're going to play a 2-3-5 build-up in the way Man City and the Centurions did, because you're getting more 10s in that space there, and you're getting players who want to get the ball through the lines and feed a Martinelli who can run in behind. I don't like the look, if we just move everyone back, of Rice receiving the ball in that pocket with Onana there. It just doesn't feel that... It doesn't feel like it fits to me. It feels slightly imbalanced. I actually prefer the idea of maybe Zinchenko, overlapping and Martinelli dropping in field. I could see that happening, and us having that build-up shape with Rice drifting left a little bit. I could even see, the wing backs holding the touchlines we've seen a few times towards the end of last season, with a build-up shape looking a little bit like that, with a box made by Odegaard and Havertz with Onana. I could see that shape, but essentially I wonder if you're going to sign another 6 and have them alongside Rice, if you're sort of killing the idea of the inverted fullback for Arsenal. I don't think we'd see that much of it, and we'd see White and Timber overlap a little bit more. If we do you have Rice and Onana on the pitch at the same time, where I think you want to get another number 10 instead? That is where I just feel like, I don't know if tactically, system-wise, it makes a lot of sense to add another 6 to play alongside Rice. But I do also understand that we've been at our best when we've had better playmaking 6. I don't know, people. With all this, I think you could tweak the system, you could do a few different things and it would work. Ultimately, I think with Onana and Rice, the balance feels a touch off and we would be moving away from what I think Arteta's ultimate vision is, which is to get someone else with Ødegaard, another creator, another 8-10 hybrid who's going to give us lots in terms of creativity and guile in the final third. And if you're signing Onana, then you're sort of committing Rice to that position full time going forward. I'm not sure that's where he flourishes. I think you want 2 creators in Ødegaard and someone else, a Guimaraes, a De Jong, someone like that, and Rice sitting to win back possession. And you know what? If you need a little bit more ball progression, from deep, then you can maybe flip it and get De Jong or someone next to Rice who can help him build up and get Ødegaard floating the 10 a little bit more. I just don't know if that balance works. Let me know. Am I waffling, people? Let me know in the comment section below if you get what I'm trying to say. I don't think I've explained myself brilliantly, but there's just a balance that I don't love there. Ultimately, I focused a lot here on Onana from a system and tactical perspective, but also from a technical perspective as well. You just got to watch the player. Watch more of the player and get an idea for whether you think his ability on the ball is better than the numbers are suggesting. I think it is. I think he is much better technically on the ball than FBref data will tell you. But at the same time, I don't think that's what the midfield needs right now. I think if you lose Partey, you sell him, then I get it. Maybe to get Onana up to speed, up to scratch for when Jorginho eventually retires and then Rice can play with Onana at times, and I get all that. But ultimately, if we're keeping Partey, we're keeping Jorginho, we're keeping Rice, I want to see a more natural 8 who can add something in the final third rather than just trying to shoehorn one of Onana and Rice into that position because the 6 market was better. That's how I feel. I'd even overspend on Guimaraes if it means getting the right guy, and I've been very against spending up to 80 million on Guimaraes because I just don't think he's been that worth that. But the strengths of Onana, he's strong, he's a good ball carrier, I think he's better on the ball than people give him credit for, certainly very good defensively. He offers something on set pieces, we haven't even talked about that yet. He gives us a lot in terms of, being a threat from set pieces, which Arsenal have made a real weapon of theirs in the last few seasons. So he'd fit in, for sure, in a lot of ways. But do we need someone to fit in, or do we need someone to elevate us and give us something different? I think it's the latter. Hit the like button if you enjoyed this video. Subscribe to the channel for more updates on all things Arsenal and especially the transfer news. And we'll see you very soon next week for another In Focus.